it feels like that's one of those big things that people crave, right? Is being recognized, and as a leader, looking for those things, taking the time, really means a lot. Like it doesn't even have to be a big recognition, but acknowledging something. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, well, I think everybody does. And I'll be honest, I mean, a little bit of it's self-focused too. I mean, I enjoy the feeling I get when I made someone feel that way. I think it just helps everybody. It kind of keeps people happy, keeps people, smiling.
That's
I like to see people smiling.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is what are the things that create the most joy for you? Again, you have a high level career, lots of responsibility, lots of things on your plate. So how do you keep joy on a daily basis, and then what are those things that kind of
to personal joy?
You can answer it however you'd like.
Gosh, it's. I'll be pretty honest. I'm an introvert, and quietness brings me joy.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of quiet time in my day, on the way home, on the way to work. I think I enjoy, especially in this setting, I love seeing people achieve things. I love seeing people take an assignment or take the initiative to do something and run it through fruition and be successful. That is a lot of fun. When you see people do that over and over and they start to get excited about it, they become the best people on your team, because now they've kind of built that confidence inside themselves and desire to keep driving. That to me is fascinating. What else? I enjoy paddleboarding. Again, that's my quiet time.
But I think that's important, like the recharging also for leaders. Like it's also you are in front of people as much as you may consider yourself an introvert or know yourself as an introvert. The reality is you have to be with people a lot of the time. So what I hear is being able to take care of yourself as well is important, right? So that you can give.
Yep.
Right? So whether it's paddleboarding or a little bit of quiet time or however it is that we recharge, I just hear that that's important.
Yeah, to me, I think, to me, physical fitness, especially over the last year, has become a key for me. I think through my Marine Corps, I was pretty well fit with my Marine Corps career. And one of the things I realized after having been here 3 years was I was kind of falling apart. I got busy with NBA, and then I came straight here. I got busy here. We went through a tough period about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, with some restructuring. And what I realized is I let myself go quite a bit. I wasn't working out. I was so focused on the chaos around me. And it was really about a year ago that I forced myself to get kind of going again, and it's my daily ritual now. If I go to the gym for an hour and a half in the morning, it really clears my mind, and it kind of gets a little bit of energy out so that I'm ready to go for the day. And then, like I said, the quiet time for me in the morning on the way home from work is key, because I have another role. Is obviously I got to go home at night and be a husband and father. And this is something I was failing at a year ago as well. I was so focused on the day-to-day of work that I would go home and I wasn't be as successful as I was at home. It could be at home because I was so much going on in my mind. So trying to really make sure I have a little bit of time to clear my mind before I get home is kind of key too.
Yeah, well, that brings back kind of into that definition of success, right? Yep. Like that it's the journey, and it's not just in one part of your life, but kind of touching all.
It's everything.
It has to be everything.
Yep.
I think a lot of leaders, like there's so much on your plate, it is hard to figure out how to be a good you everywhere. Right, so that takes consciousness, like that takes a conscious effort, a plan often, or just making sure that you don't. So you're working out first thing in the morning, so it doesn't end up getting pushed.
Right. It's a huge challenge. I think for anybody, maintaining that balance between your work life, your home life. It's a challenge being a leader on a daily basis at work. Everybody has good days and bad days, and none of us are perfect at it. And I think you got to be you have to be willing to accept that you're not going to be a perfect leader every day, but you can sure do your darndest to be the best you can.
Yeah.
And then if you do mess up, you got to be able to confront it.
To own it. So I have two things. I do want to ask about if there's been something that started as a failure, like anything that I think a lot of times people listen to leaders and they're like, oh, he's just smarter than I am, or he just nothing's ever gone wrong for him. So it's always important, a challenge or something that at the moment wasn't the way that you wanted it to go, and then kind of the lesson that came out of that for you.
Well, I'm sure there's plenty. I've failed plenty of times in my life. But the one I love to tell is just from college. So I went to a Catholic all boys high school, and then I decided to go up to Penn State, which is obviously a huge school in Pennsylvania, and a whole new world for me. And I immediately had to go rush a fraternity and join a fraternity, and then my sophomore year I had to move into the fraternity because this was now an exciting party lifestyle. And by the end of my sophomore year, I had a 1.17 GPA. After been honors all through high school, had signed up to be an engineer at Penn State. That didn't work out. And I was lucky in that summer, before my grades made it home, I was able to move out here to Newport Beach with my uncle for the summer before my parents got my grades. They couldn't get to me too.
But a little distance.
They couldn't get to me too quickly. So, but what it did for me, obviously, we had some discussion on the phone. They set some requirements for me to go back to school. But I think through that experience, I really learned. I learned a great lesson that I need to stay focused on what's important in life. So the deal was, in order to go back to school, I had to get dean's list for the remainder of my time in college. I had to move out of the fraternity house and a few other things, and I did that. And ended up getting dean's list by the end of college, and I had to get a job as a dishwasher at the local restaurant. But it was just a great lesson for me. It really kind of got me back focused on what was important in life, and I think that set the tone for a lot of the rest of my life.
I think that's really important. My next question was, I wanted to ask, kind of the advice that you might give young people just entering their careers or entering the workforce. But I love this idea also of focusing on what's important. For you, what did you kind of glean coming out of that? What was important at 20 years old or whatever age that was?
Well, I learned that if I'm not taking responsibility and putting my best foot forward I put a lot of risk, because at the time I was trying to get in the Marine Corps. I had to go on academic probation with the Marine Corps, so I almost lost my ability to become a Marine Corps officer. I almost ended my college career, which obviously set me up for the rest of my life. And I obviously disappointed my parents quite a bit, which obviously was part of the equation too. So all those things came together, kind of teach me that I need to just be focused on doing the right things here. And although partying's fun, it's time to get serious now and think about the rest of your life.
Yeah. So what is a little advice you'd give someone in college just entering the workforce, just in terms of looking at their future?
Well, I think if they're looking at their own future, I think it's good to start thinking about the future, but the best thing you can do is in that first job or second job, whatever job you get as a young person, the most important thing you can do is find a way to add value every day and continue to push yourself to find new ways to add value in whatever capacity you can. Maybe it's small, maybe it's big, but continue to look for those ways, and then also continue to educate yourself. I think that was also another great lesson from the Marine Corps. The learning doesn't stop. It never stops. I mean, I'm still trying to educate myself today. But as young lieutenants, we were all reading books together. We were reading books all the way through most of my officer career, and reading continues to develop your mind and experience well beyond what you could do yourself. So continue to learn no matter what.
So are those kind of some of the things that when you're looking to bring someone into your team, some of those qualities are present, or what are some of the things you look for as you're hiring or making a recommendation?
Yeah, I think the continual learning is an important one. You know, one of my favorite traits really is initiative. I'd love to hear how somebody has stepped up and taken the initiative to improve something in whatever capacity. Again, another Marine Corps thing, but taking the initiative really is a leadership role. That's exhibiting leadership, but that isn't always common. And when you find somebody who's willing to put their neck out a little bit, take the initiative and try something, or take the initiative to come and present on a new idea, those are kind of key points in my mind of a great team member, because they're engaged, right? They want to continue to pursue their own career. They want to continue to support whatever your mission is, whatever you're trying to achieve. And they're thinking, right? They're taking the time to really think something through and come up with ideas.
I find, again, I think there's this oftentimes, especially as organizations get larger, a fear, right, of failing or of taking initiative and it not working out and looking bad. How do you cultivate? How have you cultivated? How does your team cultivate encouraging people taking initiative, even though it's a large organization?
You have to accept failure. You have to let people fail and not wear them out about it. I think people get burnt a few times early on in the career and then they're stuck.
Yeah.
But you have to encourage people and you have to say, okay, so that didn't work out. What happened? Is there anything we can do to turn it around? Is there anything we can do to make it better? I think that is what our job is as leaders, to help people identify those spots and do something about it.
You said something real, so it goes wrong. I think a lot of leaders also then jump in and say, well, let me just fix it. Versus the questions you just asked. What did we learn? What could we do differently? And then giving that space where they might be able to try again.
Make some recommendations, but you also, a little bit of the Socratic method. You got to help them develop the response as well. Because if it's just you telling them what to do, they're not learning.
So this does not feel natural. Like this, what you're speaking to doesn't necessarily feel that it comes naturally to all of us. People who have moved into a leadership position are often the best or brightest in their area, the best accountant, the best salesperson, whatever and all of a sudden now they're in charge of managing people. But this idea of cultivating the ability to bring out the best in others, again, is there hope for everyone? Like, can everyone get better? Is that a muscle, or do you have to be good at that?
Well, I think it's a muscle. Yes, you got to practice it, but I also think it's part of. It's got to be part of your organization. It's got to be part of your leaders. I mean, if your leaders aren't willing to accept failure, then maybe they're not the right person to work for. Because there's no way for you to actually grow and be the best salesperson, be the best whatever, if you didn't get to try or stumble a few times along the way. Because that's really how we learn. And it goes back to what I was talking about by learning from watching our kids. You got to let your kids try things. If you don't let them try things, they'll never understand how to do it.